Hey, good evening, folks. Welcome, America. Thank you for tuning into the Dave Englishman Show. It's an honor and a privilege for me to do these shows for you, and thank you for all the people who watch and subscribe. I'm going to get right into tonight's show. This is a continuation of last night's show, which is episode number 26, so this is episode 27. And in last night's show, I covered the following. The time right now is 10:15. So last night's show, I covered Fauci, I covered Moderna, I covered Event 201, I covered the March 28th patent filing for the Corona-19 vaccine, which was the initialization of the vaccine. They wanted to start working on it, so they applied for a patent. I discussed the Wuhan virologist, and I played a video of the Wuhan virologist on the Tucker Carlson show, where she states that the COVID-19 pandemic was released and that the virus was man-made. The original virus they took and they manipulated it and manufactured a new virus. I also dove into what Obama and Fauci did together. They moved offshore the research of COVID viruses, and Obama and Fauci actually funded $3.7 million to the Wuhan virology laboratory in Wuhan, China. So with that all said, it kind of bears out with facts and data to me that number one, the vaccine is man-made, or not the vaccine, the virus is man-made. The powers that be, the deep state and the left and the CIA and even top Obama placement generals within our military are behind a lot of real devious plots in our government. And thank God for Trump, because he's slowly draining the swamp, but now they're draining themselves because they're outing themselves in everything they do. So I wanted to get right into a couple of things. And excuse me if I have to put on the glasses. I'll try to look the other way. It was a long day today, and I'm kind of tired, but I wanted to do this back to back so that I could get all of the facts and data out there. So I showed you this last night. This is preventing a disrupted presidential election and transition. So this is from the Transition Integrity Project. And I gave you some tidbits out of this, but I because of time last night, I didn't dive into a lot of things to do with what the left is about to do. And so I'm going to tell you what the left is going to do, and I'm going to give you some tips on things that maybe you don't want to do to make yourself. I want people to get raucous, and I want people to get verbal, and I want them to get engaged in what's going on, but I don't want you to expose yourself so that you become a target for the violence that's coming. And I'll get to that in a minute. So this whole plan here was concocted. They actually did trial runs on, just like they did with Event 201, right? So they had a week-long meeting and they ran through scenarios. And one person, played the leader of the WHO. One person played the leader of the CDC. They had people coming in and play the role of doctors, politicians, and they ran scenarios so they could get it down. It's like an acting job for a movie. You get your roles down. Well, they did the same thing here. They actually ran test runs to see what the best scenarios were for getting rid of Trump. And so they're doing this partly with this, because this is the actual plan, but they're doing it through what's called a color revolution. I'm going to get into what a color revolution is. So this whole plan is for a contested election. So they are coming out because they know they can't win. So what they're doing is they're putting the narrative out there in the news media that Trump is going to have to be dragged from the White House because he's never going to concede that he lost the election. And at this stage of the game, with Biden's mental faculties and with Harris and all of her baggage, there's no way that these two pair of imbeciles are going to, hostess is actually financing their campaign. They call it the campaign of ding-dongs and ho-hos. I thought that was kind of funny when I read that today. So anyway, a little sidebar. So we have a contested election is what this whole agenda is on. So they say here, if there's a crisis, this is their words, folks. If there is a crisis, events will unfold quickly. It says, planners need to take seriously the notion that this may well be a street fight, not a legal battle. Now, they've already come out and said that they're going to push for a street fight against us. And they have already, Biden hired over 600 lawyers to contest everything from every single late ballot should be counted to they're out of ballots and, oh, there's another truckload showing up. You see, they're going to try to win by any means possible, because if Trump gets a second term, what we have as Americans watched go on for 50 years because of our complacency, we let this happen. My parents' generation and my generation, and even some kids of older children like my two older ones, are responsible for this because we've been complacent. We gave these people the power. We enabled this to happen because we kind of took our eyes off the game. And when it comes to our well-being and our liberty and our freedoms and that of our offspring, I think we need to be a lot more engaged and hold our elected officials accountable. So, most industry, these days, people are paid by their performance, what they do, right? As a manager, you would hold your people accountable. And if they don't perform, they either get a reduction in pay, or they would get terminated, they'd get written up, or they'd get fired. There's really no other choices of any of these things. We don't do the same thing with our elected politicians. They should be paid upon their performance, not upon getting, $240,000 a year, $274,000 a year for screwing us over and taking, weeks at a time off from the House and the Senate and taking money on the side. I think the taking of the money on the side is a conflict of interest in the highest order, because now they're not working for us. They're working for whoever's paying them off. It's like to the highest bidder, gun for hire. Well, it's politician. Gun for hire, politician, same thing, because they're killing us. So it says here that it could be a street fight, not a legal battle. So again, what they say that we're going to do or Trump's going to do, all you have to do is look at past events. And it's happened over and over and over and over and over again to the point where it's systematic now. If they say Trump's going to do it, they do it. It's a complete 180. So they've already hired 600 lawyers. They've already got the rioters in the streets, right? So they're saying it's going to be a street fight. It's already going on. This is just a precursor because it gets a lot worse. So they say dedicated staff and resources need to be in place at least through the end of January. They're going to keep this up from Election Day until the end of January. Get ready, folks. I told you last night, it's coming to a town near you and it's coming to your street. And I mean it's coming to your street. I showed you that video. Family just trying to leave with their car, and they surround the car. They kick the crap out of the car. They break the back window. They throw rocks. They're yelling at these people, intimidating them. I don't know if you noticed, if you go back and you watch that video, in my video embedded in the show notes, you can actually go and watch that video. I put it up. And there's about maybe 2 seconds of footage where the camera swings and it comes back real quick. There's a member and there's a barrel of a rifle pointed at the driver. I watched it about 8 times to see if my mind was playing tricks on me with my eyes or it's an actual barrel of a gun, and it's pointed. So they're out on our streets, these fascists, because they claim that they're anti-fascists. They're the fascists. They're Marxists. They're equivalent to Hitler's brown shirts or Mussolini's black shirts. There's no difference. They're out on the streets to beat people up and create chaos and division and fear. And it's made to confuse the American public so that we're in a state of mass confusion all the time. And look what's happened in 2020. Everything is mass confusion. COVID. And now you got the whole thing with everybody's got to take this mandatory vaccine, to jobs. There's still, jobs to be had. People are on unemployment. Restaurants are closed down. Some businesses are closed down. People losing their homes. People losing their businesses. Kids now are at home being homeschooled in several states. So parents are at home. And I got into this last night, and then I kind of got off on a tangent. What kind of clued me into all of this with the parents is we have a huge door in our facility that operates with springs. And one of the springs let go. And I called a company that we normally do business with, and I said, when would you have a crew out to come out and repair this? And he goes, Dave, I'd love to have somebody out there this week, but he said, I'm literally talking 2 weeks, maybe 3 down the road. I said, is everybody in your crew okay? I'm thinking somebody's got COVID and they had to close down. He goes, oh, no, we're all healthy. He says, I've got 2 crews, and normally they're both on the road. He said, but their wives have to work where they work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He said, so they're at home doing their kids' homeschooling. And he said, they come in for me on Thursday, Friday. He said, and then we're doing an overtime shift on Saturday just trying to keep up with the work because I've got so much ahead and I can't get it all done because I'm missing 3 days of my week. So he said, when the men are at work for me, he said their wives have to leave work and they're at home with the kids doing homeschooling. So he said it's been a real rough go for them because they're not getting the regular incomes. And he said they're actually taking a hit. And he said things are just in chaos at their houses. And I don't doubt it. Things have been in chaos in my house with 2 5-year-old twins not going to school at the end of the school year last year and the summer being extended by 4 months. This has just been chaos for us because the kids, they want to hang out with their friends. They want to associate. They've already gone to school for 2 years now. So can you imagine kids that are in grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, all the way up? These kids are used to going to school, and it's no wonder these children have such high levels of depression right now. So with all of everything that's gone on, right, in 2020, we know that this whole virus thing was man-made and a setup, and it was deliberately released upon the world and upon America. At the same time that was being released, their whole impeachment trial was actually unraveling. And they had planned on getting him, Trump, on the impeachment trial. And I believe that the COVID was designed to take out Pence, because if they can get rid of Trump through impeachment, they would take out Pence through the pandemic, showing that he was, not capable of handling the epidemic, that, he was inconsistent, or however they wanted to frame the narrative, they were going to go after Pence. And then this way they did have a clear path to victory in 2020. Well, the impeachment whole thing unraveled. So now they depended on COVID. Trump's come out of COVID pretty good, actually. And these idiots, have downplayed hydroxychloroquine. They've tried to push this vaccine. You have blue state governors and mayors who shut down their states. You have governors and mayors who put people in old folks' homes, and an additional 30,000 people died that probably died unnecessarily and probably could have been preventable had Cuomo and de Blasio, just those two, for example, only, had used the Javits Center and the hospital ship that Trump sent to New York Harbor. But no, they had to do the most unthinkable thing of all, is to place these people in old folks' homes where you have the sick and the elderly and the infirmed who most likely have more than 1 or 2 pre-existing conditions, which means if they come down with COVID, they're almost assuredly going to pass away. So now we get into where we are today. So we're still under lockdown in certain states under COVID, and now we have these riots over George Floyd, and I guarantee you that 3/4 of these people who are rioting couldn't even tell you George Floyd's name. They have no idea why they're out there on the streets, except that they're getting paid to burn, loot, and murder, BLM and Antifa. So I wanted to show you a couple of things here. So this is the actual list of dates that they pulled off their schooling, if you will, to plan this whole event out. So I'm just going to go over this. So David Frum, Where the System May Break. So that's January 31st of 2020. Paul Egan, That was July 31st, 2020. Experts game on what might happen if elections goes off the rails. All things considered, July 30th, 2020. This war game maps out what happens if the president contests the election. July 28th. Paul Steinhauser Group is quietly planning for what happens if Trump-Biden election is contested. July 27th. Jess Bidgood, a bipartisan group, secretly gathered to game out the contested Trump-Biden election. It wasn't pretty. That was July 26th of 2020. Jason Lemon, bipartisan group, predicts violence if Trump loses election and refuses to leave White House. So that's July 26th. Election gaming scenario. Is this what 2020 has been about? So that's July 26th. Ben Riley, revealed Republicans and D.C. veterans for Donald Trump won't accept election defeat. July 7th. What if Trump loses but insists he won? July 6th. How America could fail its democracy test. July 2nd. Trump could still break democracy's biggest norm. June 16th. Trump sows doubt on voting. It keeps some people up at night. May 24th. So it goes on to say, will Trumpism survive a Trump loss? I'm not making this up, folks. This is all here. It's all here. So I have this downloaded. I didn't have it in last night's show notes, which are already up. I will add this to it. And I'm going to also add the article by Michael Anton from his piece. And this gentleman has out a new book. It's called The Stakes, American at the Point of No Return. And that's where we're really at. We're at the point of no return if we don't fix this and fix it right quick. We have the power to take back our country. We have the power to be heard. We have the power to be seen. It's about time the right, and I know conservatives are very conservative in your thoughts and your thinkings, and so am I, but I've gotten to the point where this is way too important to sit idly by and be quiet about this. That's the only reason why I'm doing these videos. Part of this is for me to get an outlet so I can get my frustration out and try to make people aware of what's really going on. I'm reading about everything that's going on because, number one, I can't believe this is happening in my own country. I can't believe this is happening in the United States of America. I'm just blown away. And number two is I've got 5-year-olds, right? And before they came, I did a lot of thinking, right? Do I want to bring kids into this world? Do I really want to do this and have them grow up in this kind of chaos? And 5 years ago, I thought, okay, well, we're almost at the end of Obama. Things can't get any worse. A lot of people thought that things can't get much worse than they were then. So I was like, okay, well, maybe the pendulum's going to start swinging back the other way, and maybe my kids, this generation, will actually grow up and be okay. And so we made the decision to have these kids. And now I'm like, what the hell did I do? And I'm sure a lot of you think the same thing. Like, I worry about their future. I really do. And that's why, even though I'm conservative and I'm reserved in some of the things that I do in my life, I don't talk to a lot of people in my neighborhood. I talk to my direct neighbors. That's it. And they're really good people. And it's not the fact that the people that live on my street aren't good people. They're great people. But we're just, the two of us are kind of like, we like our own world. We're in our own little bubble. We kind of look at our home and everything as our little getaway from everything. We're out in the country. It's quiet. We're in the woods. And, it's the way life is supposed to be. If you're striving to get to the American dream, this is it. And the Democrats want to remove that from everybody. It wasn't easy for us. I had to claw my way up. I started out at the very bottom, just like most everybody else. And I worked for everything I got, unlike Obama saying, you didn't build that. Well, I built my own life, and I got what I have by a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, and a lot of tears, just like a lot of you. And I'm not willing to give that up, and I'm not willing to give that up for my children's future so they can live underneath the jackboot of tyranny. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think most of you get it. So with that being said, I'm skipping by the Convention of States, and I want to get into this whole thing with the color revolution. So I went through a couple of paragraphs of this last night, but it gets even worse, folks. It really does. So this goes on to say the scenarios, which were one of the last things I talked about. So this whole scenario of a color revolution, and they talk about it in this article. They've done it all over the world. The CIA they're masters at color revolutions. What they do is they use the media in whatever country they want to conduct this in. They use money, and they use the mob, meaning rioters. And they pay the media to show that the candidate that they don't want as the leader is failing in the polls, is causing chaos in the streets. So they have the rioters in the streets. They pour millions of dollars paying the rioters, paying everybody else, the news media, to create such pandemonium that when the election becomes contested, they've already painted the narrative that this person's not going to ever leave, right? That they're going to be a dictator or whatever, and then they can oust them. And that's what they're trying to do to Trump. So they come down with two scenarios, and this is from their color revolution and from the Integrity Project, which is it's non-integrity project. So Trump loses the election, refuses to leave office, and must be dislodged or democracy is lost is number one. Trump wins the election by fraud and must be dislodged or democracy is lost. So it's a lose-lose situation no matter what. So Trump could win in a landslide. And right now they have Facebook and Twitter and Google and YouTube have all decided that they're in on this color revolution because they use the media, and they're part of the media, right? Social media. And you're seeing conservative speech shut down right, left, and center. And you're seeing, they're openly saying that on election night and even after that, if anybody posts that, Trump won, it automatically gets wiped. And you could get wiped. They want nothing getting out there so that the Democrat constituents, the people who would vote for Biden and Harris, they got to have some screws loose. But anyway, at the end of the day, what we're going to have is Trump will not be able to get any word out whatsoever on Twitter. His administration won't be able to say anything. Those in the military that support him won't be able to say anything because there's quite a few in the military who don't support him, and they're the top brass that Obama put in 2011. And not only does the Michael Anton article that I'll put up talk about that, but this article talks about it. So it says the scenarios do not accommodate Trump actually winning the election by the vote of the people. That outcome is outside the possibilities. That outcome is outside the possibilities. Trump can only lose or steal the election. With Antifa and Black Lives Matter now experienced in violent protests, they will be unleashed anew on American cities when there is news of a Trump election victory. The media will explain the violence as necessary to free us from a tyrant and egg on the violence. As will the Democrat Party. The CIA will be certain that the violence is well funded. Trump isolated in his own government, which has failed to bring charges against the Obama regime officials who tried to frame the President of the United States and drive him from office. Barr and Durham represent the establishment, not the president or the law. They will all be cut from Twitter, Facebook, and from print and TV media. All Americans and all of the world will hear is that Trump lost and must go. Or Trump won by voter fraud and must go. It will be impossible for Trump or anyone to refute the charges. The weak-minded, weak-willed Republicans will collapse. And when I say you need to stand up and you need to get vocal, you need to call your congressmen and your senators up on the Hill. You need to call your state congressmen and senators who are Republican or conservative, and you need to tell them to stand up and be counted. Do not sit down, do not give in, do not cave, do not back down. Be relentless and let the conviction of your moral integrity guide where you're going. And that goes for every one of you out there too. This is a battle for America. This is a battle for our heritage, our history, our homeland, our ancestors, our children, our children's children's future. This is a battle for freedom across the entire globe. We lose freedom here, we lose it everywhere. Ronald Reagan said that, and those words couldn't be any truer than they were spoken then. They're no truer today. Today is where those words really belong. It's ironic that before Trump came along, people were craving another Reagan. And yet the never-Trumpers go around and they say, oh, Trump isn't conservative enough. Are they for real? Look at everything Trump's done. The judges on the court, the judges on the lower courts, the appellate courts. Look at the things that he's done with rolling back regulations. Look at the things he's done with the sex trafficking trade, the illegal border crossings, everything, every single thing, the trade tariffs, the trade deals. He's freed America. We were being slowly, as Joe Biden said, going to put you all back in chains. They were putting all of us in chains. All of us. And they had no problem doing it. They get paid very well to do it by their handlers, which are CIA backed. I'm telling you, the CIA is the most corrupt entity in the United States. And John F. Kennedy said he wanted to smash them into 1,000 pieces and scatter them to winds. They took him out. They took out Kennedy. They tried to take out Ronald Reagan too. But they missed the mark on that one. Let's hope they don't try pulling that crap again. Because if that happens, I swear to God, if you think it's going to get bad over the next couple of months, and it's going to. But if that were to happen, I think you would see an all-out outbreak of war in 24-hour period. Because there would be no way that the right is just going to sit anymore. They have brought this fight to us, and they have no idea what they've unleashed. They have no idea. I see memes all over Facebook of wolves' eyes in the dark saying we're quietly sitting by. Just let us know when. Or a Doberman Pinscher that says, I'm patient. Just tell me when. It's coming. They have started this fight. I showed you that in the video last night. I've shown you in the videos in the past. Walking right up to a Trump supporter and shooting him in the head at point-blank range and killing him. The rioters shooting cops in the head. It's crazy. This is America. So it says here, the CIA, the National Endowment for Democracy, Radio Liberty, etc., have used color revolution against others who stood in the way of the American national security state. Only Maduro has survived them so far. The Secret Service cooperated with the CIA and the Joint Chiefs in the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. I'm telling you, I've been saying that forever. What is a re-elected President Trump going to do when the Secret Service refuses to repel Antifa or Black Lives Matter when they breach White House security? There is no doubt whatsoever that the Secret Service is penetrated by the CIA. How else could President Kennedy have been assassinated? American democracy is on the verge of being ended for all times, and the world media will herald the event as a successful overthrowing of a tyrant. Do you understand that this is all being manufactured in the background? While you're all sleeping and going to work and you're conducting your life, this is really going on. These games that they're playing to come up with the scenarios are real. They are telling you what they are going to do. They've said it all along. This is what Trump's doing. Meanwhile, they're in the background actually doing it. And it gets proven time after time after time after time after time. You need to wake up. You need to start, if you're somebody who's just started watching my shows and haven't caught a lot of them, I try to go backwards in history and bring you back forward again to show you where we've come from and how we've gotten to this point. The CIA has been involved in the news media since the early 1950s, since 1953. They have put the narrative, the political narrative, out to the American public since 1953. And you had a communist infiltration into our bureaucracies, into the House, the Senate, the presidency. Look at some of the presidents we've had. Into our judicial system, into our universities, into our medical community. Its tentacles spread very deep and very wide. And why? Why did they want to get rid of the McCarthy hearings? Why did they want to get rid of the Senate Committee on Un-American Activities? Why? You don't hear about the Chinese government getting rid of their committee on un-Chinese, CCP activities. That's not happening. Or Russia, or Germany. I'm sure they all have committees that look at things that are going on, but maybe not Germany. They've let a whole influx of people come in that really shouldn't be in Germany either. So, but that's the global governance whole thing again, Agenda 2030. So they want to push this color revolution because they have to get rid of Trump no matter what. No matter what. Because he's draining their source of revenue by draining everything. The sex trafficking trade, the CIA's behind that. They're behind the drugs that come into the country. They are behind a lot of things because the drug money and all the rest of the money funds all these black ops programs that they have. I'm telling you, it's really happening. So I went to play this last night, and the guest that's on Tucker's show, his name is Darren Beattie, and he is a senior news editor for Revolver News. And he is going to explain to you in more detail of what a color revolution is, but he's going to bring up to light a name that I want you to burn into your head when you hear it. And you go and do your own research, because I'm going to do the research on this gentleman. I haven't had a chance to research that yet, but I'm going to do all the background research because Darren Beattie talks about a lot of the things that this man, this former Obama czar, has been involved with, and all of the court action filings against Trump that this man personally has put forth. So watch, listen, and learn. This is unbelievable what you're going to hear. But this is really going on. It's really happening.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So, for our viewers...
Oh, please. I can't believe this is going to do this again. Okay. I'll go on to the next screen, and I'm going to try to reload this, and I'll come back to it. So, it's pulling up a completely different story now. I can't believe it. I will put the video into the show notes. You know, I can't believe it, because I played this video literally right before I turned on the camera, because I wanted to make sure that I had it in the right spot, that it was playing. I'm going to try to play it one more time, and let's see if it plays, because this is really important. You really need to see it. I'll let the commercial run, and I'll just keep talking while the commercial's going. So, one of the things that I see happening come November 3rd and November 4th is you're going to see the day of November 3rd, you may see that there's people outside polling stations, causing mayhem. Hopefully the police will be there. You may see a lot of unethical things happen. But I don't think this is going to play. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. Anyway, I think you're going to see things happen across the country that you never thought you'd see in America. If you thought 2020 was bad so far, it's going to get a whole lot worse. So one of the people who's behind all of this is the title of this article is DemPac to use anti-terror technology to counter Trump's campaign messages. So when I just told you that Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Google are going to be basically shutting down all tweets and all posts regarding Trump, his campaign, his message, whether or not he wins on election night in a landslide, they're going to shut all that down. former Army General Stanley McChrystal is behind a lot of this. And he was an Obama placement. And this article talks about what happened. It talks about the Obama administration firing the generals in 2011 and putting these people in. And it is quite a good article. It says here, he was put in by Obama, but then he was fired by President Obama in 2010. So he has an axe to grind against, I believe, the establishment and against, our representative government. And I think he has a real big axe to grind, and he's not a very nice man. And you should go in and read that article, and you should go and read the Michael Anton piece. It gives some in-depth reading on that topic. So again, last night I asked, why aren't we allowed to talk about George Soros? And this article here, I'll read you the first. I'll read you the first two paragraphs, and then I'll tell you a few things that I've been able to find out about George Soros. So since 2015, George Soros has been executing a plan to reshape the country through local district attorney elections by pumping unprecedented amounts of money into races that typically only see candidates spend in the low five figures. Here's why he has an interest in these local races. Soros is exploiting the reality that all politics are local in some way. To transform America, you have to transform the way towns and cities operate. So a recent exchange on Fox News involving former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, he was on the Harris Faulkner show, and they had a Democrat commentator by the name of Mary Harf. And when Newt made the comment about George Soros funding the riots, Marie Harf came right on and said, you can't talk about George Soros. And they kind of shut him up, and they went to another topic, and then they got him off the air. And Faulkner came out later on and apologized for it. But I watched, I don't know how many people watched The Blaze TV. And so I watched his show, and it was from a week ago. And a lot of us, and these guys have a lot more exposure than I have. I don't have that many subscribers, but we're talking about George Soros because the truth has to be told out there that it's not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. George Soros is directly funding BLM and Antifa, and that's a proven fact. So I guess the owner of The Blaze, he's been talking about George Soros, and his number two guy that works for him gets a phone call from Soros' number two guy and says, we need to meet. So I guess they go and they meet. And the number two guy for Soros says, your boss is affecting my boss. And he's affecting his ability to, make money and to exist a private life. And so the number two for the media outlet says, well, I don't think my boss is going to stop talking about what's going on. And they basically gave them an ultimatum. So George Soros thinks that he's going to buy people off or silence them by violence. I think he's picking that fight now at the wrong time because I think conservative media is hell-bent on not backing down. At least the conservative media will not back down. And that goes for me as well. I'm not going to back down. I will not put myself in the category where I'm backing down. I'm joining another media site where I can post my videos because I've already had 3 videos taken off of YouTube. And they don't want what I talk about being out on mainstream because they don't want the truth getting out. So they label what I put out as hate speech or as going against their policies. And their policies are bogus because I have my right to free speech. So they're violating my First Amendment rights. And everybody that these people silence, these tech tyrants silence, they're violating people's First Amendment rights. And that's the truth of it. So just for the hell of it, I'm going to see if this will load one more time. Nope. Not going to load. Can't believe it. So this is how nutty they are on the left. They're coming out, this moron here, leftists are threatening violence if Senate Republicans confirm President Trump's nominee to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Says here, if they even try to replace RBG, we burn the entire effing thing down. Former CNN host Reza Aslan wrote on Twitter, over our dead bodies, literally, in quotations. So that seems like a pretty chilling threat from a former news media person, right? So it's funny because in the story they write, it's a chilling threat from the Iranian-American professor, author, and television host. But you know what? It doesn't really matter what nationality they are or what profession they're in. They're un-American. They're Marxist communists. And they're willing to cause violence and promote violence across the country to foment an agenda to take over the country and put us all under tyranny and remove our rights. And if you don't think that I'm telling you that you're going to lose rights. So, speaking to Wired Magazine in an interview published Thursday, Biden said that no amendment is absolute. No amendment is absolute? Thus suggesting that even something as precious as the freedoms guaranteed under the Bill of Rights are not set in stone. Really? Are you kidding me? That right there constitutes everyone, if he was become president, to rise up and water the tree of liberty once again. So he says here, responding to public curiosity about his gun control platform, Biden explained not only what he felt about the Second Amendment, but all of the similarly vital constitutional amendments as well. So he's willing to take away your Second Amendment, and they might change the First Amendment too. What, give you free speech zones? Maybe no free speech? Maybe pay everybody to spy on their neighbors and turn them in if they say anything that goes contrary to what the political view of the government, such as Stalin did, round people up, put them in gulags? Is that where we're headed? They already have FEMA camps. They were built a long time ago. So Biden goes on to say, from the very beginning, you weren't allowed to have certain weapons. You weren't allowed to own a cannon during the Revolutionary War as an individual. Yeah, if you wanted to have a cannon, yeah, you could. I owned a farm during the Revolutionary War and I wanted to defend my farm from the redcoats. Yeah, I could have a cannon. Who's going to come and take it away? They're going to say, oh, he's defending his home? I mean, they might have taken the cannon because they needed it, but I don't think they'd take it away and say, you can't have it, right? Now, I don't think, there are certain Americans out there who, sure, they want to buy a tank. I heard one guy actually bought a plane. That would be pretty cool. Have your own F-18. That'd be really cool. So I want to show you, and I'm going to wrap this up fairly quickly, but I want to show you Canada. Oh, the video came on all by itself. So this is in Canada. This is Montreal. This is 2 weekends ago. 70,000 Canadians came out on the streets of Montreal. And you want to know what they're doing? They're not protesting. Well, they're protesting against Trudeau, their elected prime minister, he's another dipshit pushing for globalism. But they're out there on the streets of Montreal. They're Trump supporters. Watch this.
Finally catching up to the flags. President Trump, if you were running here, I think you would be elected. And this is Canada.
Yeah. Can't believe it.
On est peut-être la moitié dans la moitié de la tête du convoi.
Whoever speaking in French says, look how many people are there. Can we trade them for people that hate America? That's pretty awesome. 70,000 Canadians are out having a march for Trump. I think that's awesome. So, want to read you something. This is from General Flynn. And this kind of sums up where I'm at and why I'm doing these videos and why I'm bringing all of these facts to light so that you can make a better informed decision if you're in the purple zone between the red and the blue and you're, center, either right or left. So they tried to blame Flynn for a lot of things. They set him up. The FBI and Peter Strzok set him up. And he's going to get off. Right now, the judge in the case, because the DOJ dropped the charges, the judge is being a complete idiot. He's going against every law known to man. He's also going against every precedent. So I have a funny feeling he's going to get censured at the end. But so General Flynn writes this, and General Flynn is a patriot. He's a patriotic American. He served his country admirably. And for them to do what they did to him, they should be ashamed of themselves. And I hope that a lot of them are some of the people, like I said about Chris Murphy in last night's show, who get rounded up for evidence of treason and high crimes against the United States. I hope they get tried, and I hope they get convicted of high crimes and misdemeanors. And if so, I hope that they get the full measure of the law. And you know exactly what that is. I wrote that on Facebook. And I was thrown off Facebook for 30 days. I get back my Facebook privileges just a few days before the election. So if you like my video, I would appreciate it if you could get it out on Facebook and send it to your friends. Put it on your page because I won't be able to get this video out on Facebook until just before the election. By that time, I'll have 3 more videos out. So I want to read you what General Flynn has to say because there is a little bit of hope in all of this. And it kind of goes back to what I said about Ronald Reagan. General Flynn says, where will you go to find another country that provides the opportunities and the individual guarantees of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness outlined in our founding documents and guaranteed by a government of, by, and for the people? Name a country that offers you and your family the same or more than our United States of America. The answer is nowhere. There isn't such a place. This is our land, these are our people, our cities, neighborhoods, and streets, and this is our country. President John F. Kennedy described America as the beacon of hope for others around the world. This is our place and our responsibility, and our founding, evolution, and growth as a nation are precisely defined by our imperfections, our experiences, and abilities to redeem and renew ourselves. What makes America that beacon of hope is that we are traditionally a nation of idea generators, problem solvers, decision makers, communicators, doers, builders, and warriors. We can think for ourselves, we speak freely, we act and deliver results. But being hopeful is not a survival plan. Hope has never won a war, nor will it win peace on the home front. We cannot hope to shut our eyes against the painful truth that our very existence is once again in jeopardy. Failed Marxist ideologies have invaded the mainstream of our consciousness like a network of choking vines seeking to strangle the mighty American oak tree. Those ideologies manifest themselves through social media censorship of the free exchange of ideas, the mainstream messaging that drives toward thought control, political correctness designed to force behavioral compliance, unethical technology use supporting security state, command by an overreaching few, the selective application, weaponization, and enforcement of the very ideals, laws, and institutions designed to protect us. But we are one generation from third world poverty, dissolution, and enslavement if we choose to stand by idly and allow those seeking to project their failed ideology onto the landscape that is America. The shining city on the hill is the last stronghold of freedom, and we are currently under siege. So I ask you again, if America falls, where will you go? Ensuring that situation does not happen requires that we all go on the offensive. The time of fear must now turn from anger into inspiration and action. Now is the time for all good people of America to act and protect what's ours by right and law. Our strengths as a nation have been the diversity of thought, judgment, unity of spirit, courage as a people, and devotion to what is right and just. Our founding fathers were imperfect and not politically correct. They spoke their minds, shared their ideas, worked with their fellow countrymen, and risked life, liberty, and property to ensure that the opportunities that freedom presents would be institutionally guaranteed during their lifetimes. In short, they sacrificed much. Generations of Americans unknown to our founding fathers have benefited from their resolute courage, devotion, and profound sacrifice, but knowledge of history is not enough to secure and protect what is now rightfully ours by birth, law, and responsibility. I'm going to come back to that word. Do not blindly vote for an unknown future. Kindness, generosity, courage under fire, and willingness to help our fellow Americans in time of need are hallmarks of the American dream. But the American dream isn't truly a dream for the future. It is manifested as opportunities now. And the American dream is rooted in the power of the American people, exercising the ultimate power of our vote. Thus, we are empowered to positively make a difference in our lives, our children's lives, and our neighbors' lives. We can minimize any post-election buyer's remorse by researching the candidates we choose to send as our representative to local, state, and federal government. If the candidates before us are unknown, we should reach out to them and ask them their intentions, as well as what they believe are their priority issues, problems, and crises before us. But do not blindly vote for an unknown future. Make your vote count and don't allow others to manipulate your vote for their own purposes. Consider sending those to government positions rational and thoughtful representatives who are willing to fight for the betterment of our nation, our states, and our neighborhoods. As Martin Luther King Jr. suggested, character matters. And once elected, it is we the people who are responsible for holding those officials accountable to ensure their words equal their actions. Among others, these just actions are within your power. This is grassroots patriotism, and we should not be shaken from what we believe in. Standing up for American ideals and for the American dream, they are important components of American values. I value my faith, my family, my country, and the true friend who willingly stand with me during thick and thin times. This goes on and on and on. I would read you the whole thing, but for the purposes of time, I'm going to post it in the show notes. You can finish it. But he's absolutely right. This is your responsibility. This is my responsibility. This is our country. It's our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our laws, our freedom, our liberty, our pursuit of happiness. Everything rides in the balance on what happens this election. And we can't let them pull off this color revolution. We need to hit them where it hurts. We need to start going out and protesting at our state capitals. We need to start writing and phoning and emailing our state and local representatives, our senators and congressmen in the federal government. We need to start emailing the leaders of the DNC, like Nadler, Schumer, Pelosi. We need to make them well aware that we are not going to stand idly by as Americans and watch as they try to snatch from us our God-given right to this country and for everything that it stands for. And they keep fomenting to us as they divide us into these little groups that America stands for systemic racism. Well, I challenge them and say it doesn't stand for systemic racism. We don't live in a country of systemic racism. If we did, Barack Obama never would have ascended to the Oval Office. Not the first time, and most definitely not the second. So to say that we're a systemically racist country is absolutely the biggest bag of dog it that I've ever seen in my entire life. And these people are just plain evil, and they're bad for America. They have no good intentions for you or for me, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are sitting on. These people do not care about you. They care about one thing, their agenda. And it all comes down to power and control. That's it. That's all they want, power and control over you. Over you. So look at everything that's happened in 2020, everything that I've talked about tonight and last night, and understand something. Everything has been manufactured. Everything. And now the election fraud's being manufactured as we're getting ready to go into the election. We're literally just over 40 days away. And they have come out on the internet and told us what they're going to do. They intend on having this color revolution so that they can oust Trump one way or the other, and they can take over the country with a man who's mentally unfit to be the dog catcher in any town, USA. So that's the end of tonight's show. That's the end of my rant. I hope you liked tonight's show. I wanted to keep it a lot shorter than last night's, but I could have put this with last night, but it would have been like close to 200 minutes long. I didn't want to do that. So if you like the show, please subscribe and hit the like button. And as I asked before, if you could, please, I'm kicked off Facebook until just before the election. If you wouldn't mind and you're brave enough, take my video and post it on your Facebook page, post it on Messenger, get my video out there so people can actually see some of the truth. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. My heart is with you all. God bless you, God bless your families, and God bless the United States of America. I feel honored to be with you tonight. Thank you for watching.